She didn't hit. Girl, sis, I ain't having sex. Everything. What's up, suckers, and welcome back to Everything Courtney. Y'all, this video is gonna be juicy. I've been waiting for a minute to talk about this one. Welcome back to another Transparency Please, where I am very open and transparent about my life and my journey through my faith. And y'all, today's topic is, let's talk about sex. Ow! Not the way y'all think, you little nasties. Just, you know what? Now I gotta pray. God, those who came here for another reason think we finna get down nasty with it. Lord, forgive them. Jesus knows. Amen. So yes, y'all, today's topic is all about sex, the forbidden word in most Christian families, Christian churches, everything. Like, it's just don't do it and that's it, you know. But yeah, so I want to talk about my journey to getting to where I am in terms of refraining. And I've recently come across some new information that has really changed my mind about a lot of things, and I can't wait to share it with y'all because I feel like it may be something someone else needs to hear. So anyways, sex and really the lack thereof in my life, because, well, you know, I'm not married. No bling, no diamond, no ring, but it's okay. God. And I'm gonna tell y'all how I know he's coming for sure now. Through this topic, I want to talk about the power of your words, the power of boundaries, the power of a lot of things that I have found to be necessary along this journey. So most times when we talk about not having sex until marriage, at least for me, I've heard it referred to as being celibate. Oh, I'm celibate until I'm married. I'm celibate to this. I'm celibate. Blah, 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 blah. Celibacy. But so recently, as I was preparing to film this video, I was making my notes on some key points I wanted to hit, and I decided to like define these things for y'all. So check this out. Celibacy is defined as the state of refraining from marital and sexual relations. And that sounds like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm abstaining from sex. But the marriage part is what threw me, right? I'm like, wait a minute, huh? Marriage. Oh wait, I'm trying to be somebody's wife. I looked up abstinence because I've known that word a long time too, and it's just every time I've heard that word, it was used differently. So abstinence is defined as temporary, strict avoidance of all forms of sexual activity for any reason for a specific length of time. What did I learn just yesterday? That I'm not celibate, okay? I'm not celibate. Here's why. Because I am not trying to live in a state of abstaining from marriage and sexual relations. I am living a life where I am abstaining from sex until I'm married. I did some research and it was saying how like a lot of people who are celibate are like certain figures within the church, like especially the Catholic Church, where you have the nuns and the priests. They take a vow of celibacy, and you know, so they're saying that they're going to abstain from marriage and sexual relations. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is get married so I can just do with my husband, because that's what we gonna do, baby. We gonna make it do what it do, baby. Because that's my husband and I can do that. I start thinking about, oh my gosh, how many times have I told God that, Lord, I'm gonna be celibate until you send my husband? Do you know how crazy that must sound to God?
Stupid.
Like, yes, God, I'm not gonna have sex. Cool, daughter, I don't want you out of having sex because you're not married. But I'm gonna be celibate until you send my husband. Wait, what? God probably in heaven like, so do you want the husband or not? Because what you're telling me is you do want one, but you're vowing to something that doesn't bring one. And so I'm like mind blown, y'all. Like, what the heck? This whole time my husband ain't come. No, no, I really think I might be onto something, because I've been telling this to God. I made a vow to it. Like, I'm not vowing to never have sex. That's not what I meant. And I just thank him, because he is a right on time God. Right as I was preparing to talk about this topic with you guys, he led me to this information. So Courtney is not celibate. She's abstinent. I am abstaining from sexual relations, any form thereof, until I am married. And I just want to help somebody, because I feel like, y'all, we might be praying the wrong prayer. You know, there's power in our words. We praying to God and speaking this over my life, and that's not what I meant. Because it's crazy, because I thought about it growing up. I've always heard celibacy being, oh, if you had sex and now you're abstaining from it, and abstinence being if you haven't had sex and you're just going to wait till you're married. But I'm looking at these definitions and I'm like, well, that's not, no. I could be abstinent whether I've had sex or not, but I'm just abstaining from it until I'm married. Now, celibacy, that's a whole different thing, baby. I don't, now that I see, I'm gonna do that, okay? That ain't, I don't think that's what God called me to. God, I pray that ain't what you're trying to tell me to do. I don't feel like that's what God called me to, because he knows the desires of my heart. He has renewed my heart, giving me new desires. And I do desire to be a wife. I do desire to have a husband, kids, family, ministry, all that, and wrapped around Jesus, Lord Christ, Savior. So, I'm flabbergasted. Flabbergasted, guys. And if I'm wrong, correct me. But I'm just saying, this is the research I was doing last night from some other, like, Christian pages, some Christian vlogs, all these different things. I'm like, mind blown. Lord, forgive me for speaking not what I know. So now that we have the defining part of this segment done and cleared up, I do want to talk on a few key points about my now abstinent journey. I realized some of my errors that caused me to continuously fall and stumble. I want to be very transparent with you guys. And today I'm going to talk about my journey of abstinence, and not celibacy, but how I've gotten to the place that I am now in this journey, where I am in this journey, and some of the things that I realized were my downfall this entire time. Obviously, this wasn't always my mindset when it came to sex. I had a life before being abstinent. Looking back at who I was prior to this, it was really by the grace of God that he kept me, because I feel like I was just trying Jesus, you know. The most crazy thing I feel like about my time where I wasn't walking in a lifestyle of abstinence is the various times he would speak through people, or he would create diversions or just situations where it was like, you really shouldn't be doing this. And he would oftentimes use my dad. You know, boop, 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 I'm on my way, and then getting ready, getting cute, listening to my music or whatever in the car. And then the moment I get down the street, here come my dad randomly calling me, talking about stuff. And then I'm like, okay, I know we need to talk about the Lord, but can we talk about the Lord after I get done with this? Because I'm coming back home. We can talk about it later, daddy. Like, and my father's discernment has always been crazy. So I feel like God would be like, but talk to, and he'll call you. The Lord put in my heart. And I'm like, did he had to do it right now? I mean, I'm almost there. I'm not turning around, you know. And so I would have to go there, do what I'm gonna do with this knowledge now. And it's like, imagine trying to constantly push that to the back of your head because you want to do what you want to do. And that's really speaking levels to the power of his flesh, because you would know what's right, what's wrong. Someone can literally tell you to your face, and you will still go out and do what you want to do if you give into this flesh. So I was giving into flesh, baby. You know, that was just whatever. I wasn't out here wilding, don't get me wrong now. I wasn't like that. Who I was involved with. And for whatever reason, I would just continue to listen to my flesh and not to my spirit. So that was going on most of my teen years, college, because, you know, that's just the reality of that. Don't have to be, but I chose to answer to my flesh and not my spirit. Fast forward to maybe 2017. That is the year God put me through a process of refining me. The crazy thing is, I prayed for it, but the way he did it is not how I expected it. When they say be careful what you pray for, they mean it. Because when I say that was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life, spiritually, it really was, because it was just so intense. And I'm gonna do a whole video on that, because I want to encourage somebody who may be in that part of their process, get into part of their process. But yeah, so God was doing a lot of shifting and molding and making and stretching of me in this time period. I had just got to LA. I was trying to focus on one thing, but God had other intentions, and he needed to get me alone to do it. He was working. I mean, he was working, y'all, but I was still resistant in some areas. I wasn't full on at first, like, yes, God, I'm living for you. I was still like, yeah, God, bet, you know, doing what I want to do. I was going home often, so, you know, that temptation was there, and I wasn't fully mentally and spiritually prepared for what was to come spiritually, nor for the renewing of my mind that was on its way. But thank God. I believe it was 2018, the year that I totally decided, you know what? this is it. I am going to live an abstinent life. Then I call it celibacy, but maybe that's why I was struggling. But no, okay, now I'm gonna use the correct terminology. I was abstaining from sex until marriage. After that whole refining period, I had became so engulfed with God. I mean, I was before him all the time. I was in his word. I was hearing from him. It was just, I would have so much to say. I would call my dad and we would talk about the Lord all the time. It was just so like, I was so encamped with him. It was just like running through me. I knew I wasn't going to do the act of sex itself. I was in a whole new state. Definitely wasn't about to be involved with anybody there like that. I mean, I had already put my petition before God about the kind of husband I wanted, not knowing the whole time I was really counteracting it. I told God, you know, what I wanted, what I was gonna do for him, and what I expected back. My father told me to be specific from the head to the toe and everything in between.
Yes.
So I did. And I was very specific about that, but I was still wrestling with my flesh. At some point in 2018, I believe, I said to myself, Courtney, this is it. You're not gonna do it anymore. And so I really made a vow to God. And when I say my mind was made up in a way I've never made up my mind before, I really sincerely made up my mind. And I said, Lord, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to wait for my husband. So I did that. Some of my friends were doing it too with me. So I had me a support group, you know, and I went on this journey of celibacy and not having sex for that year. And it was so empowering because I knew I meant it. It's one thing to say something, to just be saying it, but another thing to really be walking in it. And so I was really walking in this, y'all. Like, it was hard. When my mother told me, don't open up that Pandora box, because once you do, it's a wrap. She did not lie to me. I shouldn't have opened the box, but I did. I was just being hard-headed. Thought I was grown, thought I knew what I was doing. And then when I decided to not do it, my body was like, wait a minute. What you think you're doing? Here come the you know, the thoughts from the enemy trying to persuade you. Well, you already did it before. What's one more time? Or what's the point of living this life? You already been messing up. Or my favorite thing, the technicalities. Well, this isn't technically sex, and this isn't technically wrong. And it's like, yes, it is. So it was a long process, but that whole year I was so serious. I knew I was gonna push through until I received my husband. Then came my trip home. So I went home towards the end of that year for the holidays, and this was my mistake. I knew what I was trying to do, but I wasn't being completely honest with myself at this point. On this journey of abstinence, you have got to be honest with yourself about A, your triggers, B, boundaries, just how far you can go. And sometimes you don't know those limits, but you have some type of idea of what would push you too far. I knew that, and yet I still set myself up because I put myself in a situation I shouldn't have. And I ended up messing up. And when I tell y'all, the pain, the disappointment, the disgust, the heartache, I'm not gonna cry about it, I felt because I really broke a vow to God that I really meant. And the moment it happened, I mean instantaneously, I just started boohoo crying. I cried and I cried and I cried. And the guy, he held me, he was like, oh, it's okay, you're not about, I'm like, you can say what you want to say. I knew what I told God. You knew what I said, but it's not on you to fulfill. It was on me to stand strong. And I put myself in a predicament where I knew I would be weak. And I did. And so that experience really broke me in a way. It hit me in a way that I didn't expect, because I didn't expect to mess up. It really made me reflect. Now, I got my emotions together. I ended up going to see my best friend, and I told her all about it, and she was encouraging me and stuff like that. And then, you know, I had to take a moment to reevaluate myself and be honest, because it knocked me back. And then I found myself falling backwards and getting back to a place where I was making excuses again. And I was listening to that inner voice of, well, you already done messed up, you might as well keep messing up. And every time I would try to start again, I wasn't in the right headspace to do it. And I was so ashamed, and I felt horrible. I talked about it with my mom, because me and my mom are like this. Shout out mama. She's one of my best friends, and my sister too. And they was just such a support group, because I felt like a failure. I realized I wasn't being honest with myself. Fast forward to today, because from that time of that happening to now, it has been an up and down journey of, I'm doing this and I fail, and then I'm doing this but I don't mean it, and I'm doing this but I'm still texting this, I'm doing this but I told him that. You know, it was just a lot of where I used to be. And I did get lost for a moment, and it was scary because I'd never felt safe. It was scary spiritually because I felt so disassociated from God. I felt so disconnected. not hearing from him the way I knew I once was. Oh my God. It was horrible. It was so bad being in that place. Y'all, I'm trying not to cry because this thing was real to me. It was so... Anyways, girl, I'm not finna mess with this mascara. I got stuff to do after this. Get it together, Corey. You good now. That took about, what is this, 2020? I was lost for about a year and a half, almost. About a year and some. Struggling and stumbling to get back to where I am to this day. And it took a lot of healing. It took a lot of forgiveness. It took a lot of strength to get to the place I am now. Everything in your life happens for a reason. Not saying God was like, go out there and do it. But all that journey, it brought me to who I am to this day. So when I say it now, don't play with me because I mean it. Like, I mean it. Like I said, it made me review a lot of things that happened within that year of me vowing and getting to the end of the year and stumbling. Boy, I didn't just stumble. I think I tripped and fell and slid a little bit and then just did a whoop whoop, just flipped and seesaw, somersaulted on down the hill, child. I mean, I was just bloop, 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 bloop. But anyways, you know, thank God for grace. I did a lot of reevaluating of myself the first time I tried to live a life of abstinence. And I realized some of my key things that I had to be honest with myself about and that I had to change so that this time I wouldn't be back in that place again. So I'm going to tell you about that now too. So the key thing was admitting my faults. I was speaking it wrong. This whole entire time I was telling God I was being celibate and waiting until I was married. This whole time I was vowing to something that I'd never meant. Also, within that year of me being abstinent, I talked about it all the time. I mean, not with like random people or like my guy friends, but with my girlfriends. Like I would talk about it with my best friends all the time. Like, yeah, girl, whoo, girl, it's so hard today. And we would talk about just how hard it was, and it just remained hard. It was like, no matter what we would be talking about, somehow us not having sex would be the thing that comes up. And it was just because we shared a mutual choice of trying not to do it, but yet we just kept giving the urge life. We're gonna have urges, we have temptation, but the Bible speaks about how no matter the temptation, that God will always provide an escape, and he won't put more on us than we can bear. I would say that, I would think that, but what I was feeling and just wanting, this flesh was just going crazy. It was chaotic. It was as if my abstinence journey became the only version of my Christian journey that I talked about. I was no longer engulfed with just talking about how his goodness and his mercy. It was always like, y'all, let me tell y'all something. I ain't having sex, but boy, let me tell you, it's hard. Did you hear me? Did you hear what I said? Sex is not having sex is hard. No, she didn't hear me. Girl, sis, I ain't having sex. No more. Oh, your nails cute. Did I tell you, by the way, I'm not having sex? Girl, you okay? I just make sure I had said it to you though. But I did tell you I'm not having sex, right? Until I'm married. Oh, okay. I just want to make sure I said it. It was like that, y'all. It was constantly like a brought up thing. So it was constantly on my mind. I never had time to even fight against the desires like I should have, because I was constantly entertaining the thoughts. I was constantly entertaining what I was battling with. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't talk about these things, but the way we were going about it was all wrong. We was giving life to something I was trying to put to bed. I acknowledged that that was something that I needed to change. Like I said before, setting myself up for failure. The conversations that I were having prior to it happening, I shouldn't have had. The exchanges that me and him were having, whether it was verbal, through texting, sexting, shouldn't have happened. As I look back, I realized I was in denial of what my intentions were. He could have said something out of the way to me. I should have shut it down, and that should have been it. But no, here I am. Hey, boy, you stupid. Or, you know, I'm not doing that, so I'm gonna bring it up. The emojis that I'm sending in response to what I should have been just saying, no, go away. I'm not doing it. But I didn't do that. You know, I did the complete opposite. I realized that I was entertaining the conversation in a way to where, I'm not gonna say no just in case it happens. You know, I didn't want to admit it to myself, but that's exactly what I was doing, because he would have been led on to think that anything could possibly happen if I wasn't entertaining in a way. Now, he ain't innocent either, because he knew. He knew. His intentions as well wasn't pure, but that wasn't his walk either. So I couldn't expect him to be completely compliant for something he wasn't doing himself. He wasn't in the same place that I was in with God in terms of not having sex and went into marriage. So I knew these things, and yet I still chose to engage. I knew where the night was gonna end. Instead of getting up and leaving, instead of not staying there, I stayed. I think about the things I packed, and I'm like, Courtney, who you was lying to? Yourself, girl? Why would you lie to yourself? Like, You were in such denial. You knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. You know, even allowing myself to drink. By the time he even got there, I had like 2 glasses of wine. What was I doing? Because I dang sure wasn't taking communion. So what else was I doing with the wine? You know what I mean? Like, I was preparing myself for the inevitable because of the situation. And when I look back at it, I never deflate the blame to him because I was in total compliance of everything that went on that night because I stayed, because I left myself in that situation. No lie, I talked to my best friend upon going to meet him, and she was like, Courtney, don't mess up. You know you set yourself up. But I'm like, girl, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna say, hey, we just gonna chill, watch movies, well, yada, 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 whatever. Catch up, all this other bull crap. And in back of my mind, I knew that is exactly not what you're about to do. What you got on, plus this alcohol, plus, to God be honest truth, your intentions, that is exactly the opposite of what's about to go down. It was even a process of admitting that to myself because it was shameful. It was shameful to be like, I did this for a whole year and then I get the opportunity and I took advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was shameful. I'm gonna be transparent. I want y'all to, you know, be real with yourself. Be real. Shoot, you know what you're trying to do. And everything I do now, I try to make sure I know my intention. I don't want to be lying to myself. I be like, I check myself all the time now. I be like, Courtney, that is not why you doing that. Be real. And I be like, you know what? You right, sis. I know. Appreciate you. You a real one. I know. But do that. Like, check yourself. Those are the 3 things that I realized that I was doing consistently wrong over that year and a half that I was on the path without the lamp of God guiding me, because I was going down a road of darkness. These are the things I realized that I was constantly doing within that time frame of messing up and to continuously messing up. So to where I am now, the things that I do differently to keep myself on track is, 1, using the correct terminology. God, hear me loud and clear, Lord, please, Jesus. I come to your gracious throne boldly, Lord God, letting you know that I am living a life of abstinence, Lord, not celibacy. We can start that journey, Lord, with the husband. Because he hears me. The word tells me he hears me when I speak according to his will, and I feel like this is according to his will for me to get a husband. Anyways, number 2, not talking about it all the time. I honestly do not talk about my abstinence the way I did before. If it comes up, it's more in a way of like checking in on me to make sure I'm still doing good, or, you know, if I do feel like I'm struggling, I'll talk about it. Then it comes up in that way, and I'll get a support from someone to, you know, encourage me to keep going strong, or in meeting someone and getting to that place of where, okay, I need to let you know, buddy, you ain't getting no cookies at the cookie job if you ain't my husband. So those are the times that mostly comes up. Now it's just my lifestyle that is a part of me, not something that I'm trying to convince myself of, but it is a lifestyle that I'm actually living now. Setting boundaries. This is really key, especially with people who you know take you there, people who you know can trigger these things in you. You have to set boundaries with yourself. You have to set boundaries with people. You have to cut off people. It sucks, but sometimes you have to cut them off. And if they are in your life still for whatever reason, God, I pray it's not for sex, but be honest with yourself so you can be honest with them. The moment I became true with myself and aware of my intentions is when I'm able to be completely honest and have my boundaries set up with and my limits with other people. I don't do the things that I know will push me over the edge, or things that I know will even get me to where the temptation may seem too strong. I don't overindulge in drinking. I don't overindulge in certain conversations. I cut them off quick. I don't entertain certain images and receiving certain messages, because that goes against the grain of everything I'm trying to do right now. So I'm not perfect. I err still. You know, it's sometimes I go past a limit that I set. I'm like, whoa, that's too far, because if I keep going there, I know it's gonna happen. And you have to be okay with that. We're human. You get caught in a moment sometimes, and it's like, but you know what? This moment will cause me so much disappointment, so much shame. It would make me go backwards so far. I cannot go back to what I went through. I been through too much to go back now, you know what I'm saying? And with setting these boundaries, I don't give preferential treatment. I don't give certain people more leeway than others, because the moment you do that, you'll find yourself going past those limits and then making excuses, and then you find yourself back where you started. And I'm not trying to start over. I'm not saying like I'm involved with a plethora of people, but I'm just saying I limit that too. And when I say setting boundaries, and I don't mean just with the opposite sex, I mean with your friend group. My girlfriends know certain things not to talk about with me. If they're not living the same abstinent lifestyle that I am, we don't talk about their sexual life. If I ever get too loose at the lips, my friends will check the freak out of me. You hear me? And that is one of my next points, is having a very good support group. I have people around me now who will hold me accountable and will check me. Just today, one of my good friends back home was like, you still not doing that, right? And I'm like, yeah, girl, because that's the life, you know, lifestyle I'm really trying to live, and I know that they have my back, and they may not be living it, you know, like, girl, I may not be there, but I support you, and all I can do is be a light. Hopefully they'll grasp onto it too, and then we can do this journey together. If not, I just pray to God, you know, then they get married, you know. You know what I'm saying? Get engaged and married right now, like, I claim it in Jesus' name. Something. But regardless, you know, I appreciate them for putting the effort to be mindful of what they say around me, and considering what it is I'm trying to do with my walk with God, especially around this abstinence journey. I also do not measure the length of time that I've been doing it in time frame. Before, I was constantly like, girl, I'm 3 months in. Girl, it's been 5 months. Can you please been 5 months? And it was just like, yeah, girl, you know, it's been 5 months. Girl, it's been 6 months. 6 months since I did something. You know, it was just pathetic, honestly. And I feel like that was something that was like keeping me focused on it all the time, because I knew some people who was 6 years in. I knew people who were freshly in with me, people who, you know, were a little bit farther than me in different various stages of it. And it was like, yeah, how y'all did that? How you got to 6 years? How you did that? Because I'm struggling at 3 months. Like, how did you get here? I'm not measuring time as a punishment. So honestly, right now, thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I don't even know. It's been a long time. And it's like, well, it's just been a long time. I can guess around the time frame of the year, but I can't say from month to month exactly how long. It wasn't as long as it was before, but I'm getting there. And I'm thankful for that, because it wasn't always like that. And to even be like, oh shoot, I haven't thought about how long it's been, because I'm not looking at it as a punishment. It's just my lifestyle. What I am, however, counting down is when that man of God walked through that door. Hey God, hey. Yeah, one of the last things I'm doing differently now is just investing this time of not being involved with someone like that, to becoming a better woman that I want to be, and becoming the wife that I would want to be for my husband. The work I'm expecting him to put in to making himself better, I need to be doing the same thing. I should be able to provide, you know, in most aspects, the same type of characteristics I expect of him. I want him to be this God-fearing, yada 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 man, then I need to be that God-fearing, yada 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 woman. You know what I'm saying? So I am actively right now striving to become that. So when I do meet with him, we do connect, then it's like, okay, this is God sent. I feel like just like he'll know, God will confirm that to me too, because just because you want to tell me God told you, don't believe you. All right, God confirms things. He said test these spirits. I'm gonna test you, boy. Man of God, man of God, hold me in your arm. Yes. Y'all, I gotta stop. I took it myself. What I do take joy in is thinking about the next time I will be with my husband, and how amazing that's gonna be. I always see like the vision of the wedding rings in our hands, and it's just like the love from that, and it motivates me too, because that's gonna mean so much more. It's gonna be amazing all the time, because how often is God good? Hallelujah, Jesus. But that's my husband. I can do that, period. So that's pretty much the journey that I've been on, how I got to where I am today, even just being boldly about it and proud of myself. Within this abstinence journey, it does change the way I do a lot of things, especially dating. And so I'm gonna do a video on that eventually too, dating while abstinent, because, well, that's the reality of it. But I want to encourage you guys who may be thinking about taking this journey, who may be on it, who may be struggling, who may be at the brink. Stay strong. Know what your intentions are. Set your boundaries. Get a good support group. You have me. You can reach out to me anytime. Hit me up on here. DM me on Instagram. I'll be praying for y'all's strength. Pray for mine. Don't think that I'm just sitting around waiting for my knight in shining armor or my husband to come along. Like, I'm actively doing other things besides worrying about doing that or becoming somebody's wife or even engaging in sexual activity. This is something that's not talked about enough, I feel like, in church, and the way they teach it is fornication is a sin, which it is, absolutely. But they don't talk about the reality of it. Just because you told me not to do it doesn't mean that my body won't desire it. And doesn't mean that I won't have urges. The way the world is now, we have got to have open dialogue with the youth and the kids. And that is something I very much appreciate from my parents, that we had an open dialogue house. I feel like that's what kind of helped me be more transparent on here. Even when I did fall short, they wasn't there to berate me. They didn't belittle me. They didn't make me feel unworthy as if God had left me. They encamped me with their love, and they prayed over me, and they strengthened me, and they still say, even though you messed up, God still loves you. And that's what you need. You need to know that even though you mess up, God still has his best intentions for you. He has not given up on you. You still have a purpose. You still have a will for your life. And you can start over again. It is never too late. You can mess up today. You can mess up right before you see this video and you decide and make up your mind that you're going to change your lifestyle. And God will honor that, you know? So I pray God's strength for you guys. I pray his love for you. You guys stay safe. Thank you so much for tuning into this video where we are growing together, loving together, and being transparent together. I love you guys. And don't forget, Black Lives Matter, baby. Bye. See you in a second, suckers.